Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Ango bringing you some more wrestling news. We're going to kick things off today with AAA because there is some major news there. Also, I'm going to bring you a small little review of AEW Full Gear. And on top of that, AEW is not making roster cuts. It's something that you need to know. So as always, make sure you click that subscribe button, ring that bell, and all that good stuff. So if you didn't know, AAA is interested in signing some former WWE superstars. This is exciting news if you're a fan of AAA Lucha Libre. Now, these names have obviously appeared in AAA before. Also, one of them actually pretty much became a AAA legend. I think there's a lot of people who believe Taya Valkyrie is a legend at this point in regards to the Lucha Libre stuff. This is exciting stuff. Meltzer came out, said that they are interested in signing some former WWE talent. Obviously, Killer Cross, Scarlett Bordeaux are no strangers to AAA wrestling. Obviously, Taya Valkyrie is no longer a stranger to AAA. And I think this is great stuff. Now, I do want to make a mention that Killer Cross, Karrion Kross, did have some reported drama with Impact Wrestling before signing with WWE. And I really do want to see Killer Kross, return to Impact. I just look at what Impact has been doing on a weekly basis, and I just feel like he would do really well there. Also, when you look at AEW, a place that could be a really big landing spot for Killer Kross, it is starting to get a little saturated with that roster. So I think ideally, if Killer Kross were to sign with AAA Wrestling, the good news is the Forbidden Door is open. Now, whether or not he could walk through that Forbidden Door and go to Impact Wrestling, I'm not sure. Okay, and that reason is because of the drama that was reportedly happening before he signed with WWE. Now, that also allows Killer Kross to be in some form of a program with AEW, maybe make a one-off appearance, that type of thing. But unfortunately, it's really hard to say how much more of this open door, forbidden door stuff we're going to get. There is a lot of people on that AEW roster. They just signed Jay Lethal. They don't really have too many slots open for their roster. And I think we're in a situation when I look at AEW, their roster is getting stacked. I would like to see Killer Kross there, but then it's taken away from somebody else. And that's the biggest issue that we have with AEW at this point. So I don't know what this Forbidden Door means, but if AAA can sign all three of these individuals, I look at an opportunity for Deonna Purrazzo and Taya Valkyrie to go at it, Impact versus AAA. Obviously, you got Mercedes Martinez, who is competing for the Knockouts Championship. That is also another opportunity, Mercedes versus Frankie Monet. And then you also look at AEW's roster, right? You got Britt Baker, you got Hikaru Shida, you got so many people that are on the AEW women's roster that could very well benefit from having a feud with Taya Valkyrie from AAA. And then, of course, you also have AAA Mania, which is happening soon. So just something to think about. Obviously, AAA having that interest is great. It just really, what I am more curious about is, if AAA signs them, what capacity will we see them being used through the Forbidden Door? Speaking of Full Gear, this has been something I really want to talk about, and I didn't want to do a live stream or a long video on this, but I've been getting asked a lot about my opinions on Full Gear. So I figured I would do this before we talk about the big news as to why AEW won't make roster cuts. And here's the thing. Full Gear was a great pay-per-view, and I really don't have too many negatives to say about it. There was some small stuff where if you're nitpicking, I can kind of go out there and go on a little tangent with it. But for the most part, AEW Full Gear delivered something really special. And this is the major difference between AEW and every other wrestling promotion. There's really their pay-per-views aren't designed to have filler, okay? So the first match, second match, third match, fourth match, as it goes on, there's always something happening. And I think this is a good thing in terms of the quality of the matches. I think it's a bad thing in terms of how long the pay-per-view gets stretched, okay? And I mentioned this on Twitter a little bit. It's not that I was bored. It's just I was tired, right? And this seems to be an issue with AEW's pay-per-views. And granted, they only do 4 of them a year. But I've noticed that that would be the only issue I've had with AEW's pay-per-views, because every pay-per-view match is incredible. And when you're watching the match, you're tuned in. But then you do kind of get to the point where it's okay, man, it's we still have 3 matches left. And I know these matches are going to be good, and I know I'm excited about those matches. But the fact is, at that point, it's 10 o'clock. You just want to, you just kind of want to get through the pay-per-view. Now, with that being said, I think Full Gear delivered really well. I would give it a really good score, but also it's important for everybody to know, when it comes to Full Gear, what I absolutely loved about Full Gear is they finally made the decision to give Hangman Page the belt. I think everything else was good, but this was the most meaningful thing that came out of the pay-per-view. We saw that AEW gave us a glimpse of their future. Obviously with Miro, Bryan Danielson was a great match, but that I feel like people were talking more about MJF and Darby, and that's like really important because that is the future of AEW. And then Hangman Page obviously winning the belt is huge because he is the future of AEW. And now he has a very tough challenger in Bryan Danielson. I'm curious to see how AEW books themselves out of that corner. But the good news is they obviously have plans, and that's what makes AEW an attractive wrestling promotion. Again, I'm going to say a wrestling promotion because sometimes with the sports entertainment stuff, that's not what AEW is good at. But from a wrestling standpoint, every match was special, and that's why I thoroughly enjoyed Full Gear. So let's talk a little bit about why AEW won't release talent. You may have heard the story of Joey Janela, who is, his contract is expiring early next year. And, he's talking about how he's got to pick it up a little bit and get better. And, the pandemic kind of screwed him a little bit. And I think Joey Janela is a great talent. And I've always said this about Joey Janela. He has been underutilized in AEW from the beginning. And I don't know what the status is of Mick Foley, but I've seen what they've done with guys like Shawn Spears, bringing in Tully and Shawn together, like got me behind Shawn Spears. I look at what they did with Sting and Darby Allin. Again, it's getting me to believe in Darby Allin. I look at Joey Janela and I think, man, just bring in Mick Foley and give him the mouthpiece and make this guy the hardcore legend, right? Now, the thing is, AEW has a lot of talent that they're not using. And by any means, if this was WWE, this talent would have been released, right? WWE keeps releasing talent. There's a lot of people on AEW's roster. If it wasn't AEW and if it wasn't Tony Khan running the show, they would have been released. Now, there is a huge amount of belief that AEW doesn't really believe in releasing talent unless it is for disciplinary reasons. Totally makes sense. We saw what happened with Jimmy Havoc. That obviously kind of explains it. Now, for the most part, I don't recall too many releases from AEW in the past. I know B. Priestley had left. I don't know if she was released. I can't remember at this point. And then I remember that Shayna girl, or Shayna, whatever her name was, I believe she was let go as well. But other than that, I don't recall too many situations. Kylie Ray had requested her released, and then she left. So for the most part, it's not a common thing with AEW, and that's why some people even have a hard time remembering that. The belief is that AEW is not actually going to release talent. They're just going to wait for contracts to expire, and people that don't really hold any value would be the ones that are no longer extended. And obviously, that's a business decision that AEW has to make, but it's going to have to happen. This way, AEW doesn't look like the bad guys releasing talent for no reason. But also, there's a lot of stuff that people don't know. There's a lot of wrestlers on the roster who don't wrestle on a weekly basis, but they do contribute to AEW in a different capacity. And we don't know the specifics of those kind of deals, but the belief is that some of these talent may not even be released, but they just may be taken from the wrestling portion to work in the background of AEW. So with that being said, it makes sense as to why AEW won't release talent, but it also makes sense from a perspective of like AEW doesn't want to look like the bad guys. And I get that. At the end of the day, when you sign somebody to a contract, you're making a commitment to them. And it's kind of BS that in wrestling, you can just get released from your contract at any point. But also at the same time, too, we are going to see people leave AEW. And more often when it does happen, the real question is, where will they sign? Because WWE's new thing is that they're not willing to sign former wrestlers. So ultimately, some really cool stuff. I'm glad that AEW is not releasing a lot of people unless it's for disciplinary reasons, but I'm very interested to see what they do. I hope a guy like Joey Janela actually gets a chance because, to be honest with you, he can do great things. You just got to set him up for success, and that's just kind of my belief. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. As always, my name is Ango. I appreciate you watching this video, and I can't wait to see you soon. Take care.